This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. She is an animal behaviorist. She also trains service dogs, and she's very much into the psychology of dogs. But you could also potentially do that too. She offers training for that. I've learned so much from her since we've been getting together. I didn't even know she offered this training to do pretty much what she does. I'm talking about Katherine Andrews, who's back on the program. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great.
I,
Yeah.
I want to share with you, and I did initially a few weeks ago, that I will leave my dog at home, and many times I come home to a puddle or a present. And you had suggested, all right, well, you might want to put him in a crate and take away his freedom. It's not all day long. I mean, it's a fair amount of time but I take him out right before I leave for work. So I had a little talk with him the other day, kind of the way that, you said that we need to express how we feel and a certain way to do it. I came home
Right.
yesterday. There was nothing on the floor. I was like,
Okay.
oh, all right, we're gonna try. And then it happened. Actually, it was the day before that. Then it was also yesterday. And I know it sounds crazy, but I really feel the right conversation with him did the trick. It's the first time in a long time. I know it's like gross, but he's been in the habit of doing that. And I don't know where that came from. It's been going on for a while. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Well, a lot of times we kind of forget that animals are really good communicators. And if we take the time to talk to them, they do listen and they do care about what we want. And that's part of any good relationship, right?
100%. And I'll be honest, it was a stern conversation. And I was
Mm-hmm.
explaining, daddy's not happy and there's going to be changes. And um, I even put him in the bathroom for a little while, taking away some of that freedom. So he kind of had an idea what that's going to be like. Because I don't have a crate. So I was going to go searching for one.
We talked
Um,
about that. Yeah, just a
yeah.
restriction.
Ex-
Consequence.
Say again.
Consequences.
Yep. It worked.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a good place. So
Yeah.
this is just part of what you offer with the Animal Psychology Center. And I until today had no idea that somebody could take courses from you and learn how to do this. Tell us about how that works.
Well, it does require that you do have some talent working with dogs. And what I usually tell people if they express an interest in doing what I do is to go to their local Humane Society or shelter and start to volunteer and work with
Mm,
the dogs there and see if they have some innate talent in training, communicating with them, see if they can help get some dogs adopted and see if they like doing that, because you're going to work with some of the more difficult dogs. Dogs get turned in for a reason. Usually they have behavioral problems. And so that's where I tell people to begin. And if you can do that, if you can go to a shelter and work with some of the dogs that have been turned in that have had some behavioral problems and you have some innate talent, then take a look at the program that's on the website. There's an outline of what is taught and what we do. And then there'd be time to get in touch with me and see if you would like to start that program.
Now you
It's
use
on
the
the
word
website.
talent. How do you define talent when it's connected to dogs?
Having some success at working with those dogs at the shelter, obviously having some success with your dogs, and um, yeah, usually people that go into this field have, well, not usually, they always do. They have some talent. They just have some natural ability. It's kind of like people that go into any field, like say you want to be in a band, you have to have some innate talent. You have to be able to play an instrument really well, or you have to be able to sing really well. So if you have those aspirations, you got to have some talent that goes with it. So if you feel like you have some talent and you enjoy working with dogs,
Mm,
and you need to enjoy working with people too, because 50% of the equation is going to be working with the owner and communicating with them. So if you can go to that shelter and get to know these dogs that are up for adoption, and then help them get adopted and talk to these people who are coming in there and wanting to adopt these dogs, match them up, and you find that you are successful at doing that and you enjoy it,
mm.
then that would be time to give me a call and see if this program would be right for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And if somebody goes through the program, what would that ultimately enable them to do?
Would enable them to do what I do, which is to work with dogs that are aggressive and fearful. Usually, aggression comes from fearfulness. Sometimes you have a dog that is truly aggressive. That's probably 1 out of 10. But to work with these dogs and to reprogram them, to reboot their brain, um, replace negative ideas with positive ones, and then work with the owner to replace what they're doing wrong and get them both on the same page, send them home with some homework, have them come back and continue to work until all of those negative ideas are replaced with positive ones.
Mm,
And that would be what you do for a living kind of thing. There's also an opportunity to train service dogs if you want to add that on to what you do, because
mm.
I do both those things. So yeah.
So you know what? That's a perfect seg to an email we got, instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. This is from Theo in Camden, New Jersey, and it says, I heard you talk about service dogs. So this is, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. Theo asks, how does one know if their dog is suitable to be a service dog?
Well, the most important part of the whole situation when you are assessing a service dog is, do you have a dog that has chemistry with you? Is that dog, does that dog consider you as primary focus? And does that dog want to help you? That would be, it's kind of like I draw a parallel when you're matching up someone um, as a partnership, like a dating kind of a thing, a potential partner, because that dog is going to form a partnership, a very close partnership with you. So
Hmm.
you have to have that chemistry. Without that chemistry, you're not going to be able to form that partnership. So that's the first thing, is you got to have that chemistry. And the dog has to want the job, because you can't make anybody want a job. That would be the first thing. If you have that, you pretty much can give that dog the right information and train that dog. So basically, you just have to have that one ingredient and you pretty much are good to go.
Are there any things that we can do in terms of a test or some kind of exercise to know better if our dog is suitable to be a service dog? I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, yeah, my dog cares about me. He's got my back. Maybe he barks when people come around you because he's watching, thinks they might harm you. But anything deeper than that that you might be able to try to see, yeah, maybe they're even more suitable than I thought.
Usually, when we start the training, we start training for the first test. The first test is basic obedience, manners, boundaries, and partnership, pairing that dog up with that person. The dog, once they start that training, they'll usually let you know if they want the job or not. Usually when you put that there's a special collar that I use as a training collar, and you put that collar and vest on them, they will usually let you know. And I'll give you an example of
Mm,
some dogs that didn't want the job. They just shut down. They just sit down and go and look at you like, don't want to do this. And it doesn't happen very often, to be honest with you. I would say in my whole career, I could probably name, maybe a dozen or so that times that happened. I've been doing this for 30 plus years. So it doesn't happen very often. But dogs are truth tellers, I like to say. They
Mm.
will let you know. Unlike people, they don't do that passive aggressive thing. They pretty much let you know. And they'll let you know early on when you start the training, yeah, I don't want this job. And they usually just what they do is they just shut down.
It's almost like, I'm not having it. I'm sorry. I'm not wearing this vest. I'm not
Mhm.
doing this. None of
Yep.
that. Hmm.
You get the collar and vest. And I remember one dog would just lay down on his side like this, and he would not move. Like just like this, like and he was a great family dog. He wanted to be
Yeah.
a family dog. He loved being in a pack. See, some dogs are more pack dogs, because you have your leaders, you have your pack dogs, and then you have your dogs that are kind of your bottom dogs, your omega dogs. And some of those dogs just are not programmed to be in partnership, because you have to have more of a dog that's kind of a leader if you're going to partner with them. And so they're going to be more of your pack dogs. And yeah, they just will let you know, yeah, I want to be a family dog. I don't want to be a dog that's a leader, that's out there in the public, that's paving the way, that's helping one person.
So it sounds that they're just like people. Some people are leaders. They thrive on that. Other ones, team players, if you will. They don't want to be thrust into the spotlight. They don't want to be responsible for, you know, leading somebody,
Yeah.
team, whatever it might be. Uh, so is it would you say when you know, like you'll know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I usually hear from the people before I even make the call. They'll be like, I just don't think he wants to do this. I have this funny feeling. And I'm like, well, that funny feeling is your gut telling you he doesn't want to do this. So you have to let him continue to be a family dog. And we got to select a dog for you that wants this job, because we are trying to force somebody to do a job that they don't want to do.
Hmm.
And sometimes you have dogs that are back of the pack dogs, like people who want to sequester themselves and just work with a computer and not be around people. So you have dogs that are like that too.
Another email, this one coming from Kathy in Denver. She says, I'm looking to adopt a dog over the holidays. I'm going to look at shelters, but I don't know how to decide if one dog is better than the other. Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I sure do. Again, I would go with that chemistry thing. I would, you want to lead with your heart when you're making a decision about adopting or choosing a puppy, either a puppy or an older dog. It's a heart-based decision. It's not a logic decision. Let me give you an example of that. I had some people, this was when I was director of a humane society, who called me because we had like a dog of the week that we would put in the newspaper and have a picture of him. And we
Hmm.
had this adorable little Shih Tzu who was up for adoption. And they were like, we want that dog. We want that dog. I said, okay, we'll come and meet him. So they came and they met the Shih Tzu, and this was a family, a mom and a dad and a couple of kids. And they lived in an apartment, mind you. They were going to get a house, but they lived in an apartment and they were going to be in this apartment for another maybe 5 or 6 months. And I said, I don't know. I just have this gut feeling. I went, Steve, and got this 90-pound Doberman Pinscher, and they met him. And it was love at first sight.
Wow.
And yeah, and they were like, but we don't have a backyard right now. And I said, yeah, but you're going to. And I said, I just really felt like you guys were going to have chemistry with this dog. And they did. I mean, they had crazy chemistry with this dog. And long story short, I said, look, if it doesn't work out, bring him back, because I never I always had a return policy because I wanted the dog to be happy. I wanted them to be happy. And they said to the kids, they said, well, you guys have to promise to help us walk him because he's going to be walked, and he's going to need to probably go to doggy daycare. And, I helped them out with that transition of, when they were going to be in that apartment for a while. And it worked out and it was great. And I'll tell you something else. This was the dog that I tell the story about that 10 years later, he recognized me on the street.
Wow.
Recognized the back of my head. I was walking down the street. This was in Dallas, and he went absolutely crazy in the car. And they said we had to pull over and see what he was going so crazy. And they let him out of the car and he ran up to me and just gave me this big hug. And 10 years later, that dog recognized me because I had rescued him from a bad situation. Somebody had him tied up to a tree outside. And um, boy, dogs never forget when you rescue them like that. They love you forever.
Mm,
And so they saw that dog 10 years later and they were like,
wow.
oh my God, Catherine, it's you. He recognized the back of my head. But anyway, you cannot beat chemistry. So go with your heart, go with your gut, and make sure that they have a return policy because sometimes
Yes.
work out. And so make sure that they're kind enough and it's a good organization that they will help and guide you.
You said what I was thinking. And every time that I've ever adopted dog or cat, it's always been a return policy. Never had to use it, but it's just in case. It's a
Yeah.
relationship. It might not be the right fit. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out, but you want to make sure. Anything else that you could share when it comes to a shelter, or if it's wherever I'm not going to say store, although that happens. And there's some, family stores that have pets, but
There's good breeders out there. And sometimes I encourage people if they want something very specific I help them find a good breeder, and I work with a lot of good breeders. So, if we didn't have good breeders, our breeds would disappear and we need good breeders. We need dogs with specific genetics. So,
mhm.
there's good breeders out there and you can find them. I mean, they have reviews and Google business reviews and
Yep.
they will they will let you talk to people who have dogs from them so you can find them. And I would encourage you to go to their place because, like me, when I had dogs for adoption, I encourage people to come see the place. If anybody doesn't want you to come to their place, and this goes for a shelter too, that's a huge red flag. You should be able to go there and see where they
Mhm.
keep the dogs and how the dogs live and, you know, do your research, look at the reviews and talk to people who've adopted from that shelter or that breeder.
It's so true. And I've been through all of those situations. I remember way, way back. This is going to go, I want to say 30 years ago, or close to it, probably like 27 years ago. I was going to adopt a golden retriever. It was a breeder. The plan was to meet them at a local restaurant because it was, centrally located. We know where it is. And I show up and they're like, oh, yeah, I don't have the dog with me, but, I wanted to talk to you. And if you want to put a deposit, blah, blah, blah. Like, whoa, wait a minute. And it just smelled bad, the whole situation. But
Yep.
then one day, and I've always gotten rescues. I was driving through Pennsylvania and it was a rainy day. I was with my kids. It was not a lot to do. So I went to a little museum. That was actually um, a consignment, call it a mall. Like they saw a telephone. I'd never seen a telephone before with a cord on it. It was kind of funny.
Funny.
Right, right next door was a pet store. I'm like, let's go in there. Had the responsibility talk with them previously. Walked in there. I wasn't thinking about getting a dog. I'm, miles away from home. I'm away. And then I saw him, and it's like love at first sight. When you know, you know. And there was other
Mhm.
signs I got. I was able to rub his belly, and it was all good. Um, Wound up taking him home, but spoke with the family who's a breeder. You just knew right away. I said, you know what? We'll be back tomorrow. Started Googling, checking things out, and it felt right. And he was a fantastic dog. He really is. And the reason that he was there and didn't get adopted out is he's white. He had a little bit of, slight tone to his his coat, like a little like beigey, and he got rejected. And that was just
Yeah.
ridiculous. But a great dog. So you never know what you're going to get, but I think it's just vet it out. Go with your intuition and just, but most importantly, adopt when you can. This was a one-off situation. I never planned to get him. That was,
Yeah, yeah. Things like I hear things like that from my clients, things like that had happen all the time. And sometimes a given situation isn't working out. And I'll
mm,
tell them, if we have to force this, if this is just, there's something not right here, so it should it should go fairly smoothly and the process should feel good. So
mm.
that's how again, it's a heart-based situation when you're looking for a partnership.
So I want to go back to where you first realized that this was going to be your purpose and your passion. Now you offer the training. Do you remember that, way, way, way back when you were like, this is what I want to do, and I feel that I'm good at it?
I tell this story often. When I was 9 years old, I started to see, well, I was an animal nut from the time I can remember, when time I was a toddler. But when I was about 9 years old, I started to go to neighbors and knock on their door and ask them if I could train their dog, because I saw they were having problems walking their dog, or the dog was outside tied to a tree and it wasn't being let in the house. I feel bad for the dog. And they would look at me because I was really small for my age, and not now, but and they'd look at me and go, "How old are you?" Because I probably looked like I was 7 and I was 9. And then they would say, "Well, yeah," and I was able to do that. So again, I had a natural talent, and that's what I tell people to look for should they decide to embark on this career. Is that, if you have some talent and it's something that your heart calls to you, then you know that it's right for you. And I was successful. I trained these dogs, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a mentor. Back then, we didn't have Caesar Milan on TV, or
Mm.
we didn't even really have books about very much training going on. So it was pretty much just me going with my gut and communicating with the dog. But I was able to train these dogs in the neighborhood, and a lot of them got better homes because they were allowed in the house. They walked on a leash without pulling.
Mm.
So, yeah, I think that's just you know when
You said something in my journey I try to adhere to, and it's go with your heart, not your head. So many times we logically think it out, but we don't listen to our heart. And that's going to be the answer, especially something like this. What are you feeling? What's inside? Do you have that fire, that passion? You want to make families happy with dogs that are better behaved, if you will. There's so much that goes into it, but I believe and I think that once you listen to your heart, your intuition is kicking in at the same time too. And you have a high level of intuition. You feel I get it from you. I think you do. And I think that's
Mhm.
what partly pilots um, your career in working with dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. It is my passion, and I love, and I was born with it. I think people that are in this field, we are total right brainers. I'm so right brain that my left brain is would astonish you at what I cannot do. Um, yeah, I can barely screw in a light bulb when it comes to mechanical things, and
Yeah, but a
but
Pekingese walks in your door, you know exactly what it's thinking.
yeah, right, right. Or,
Wild.
when I go to the zoo, everybody wants to talk to me because they
Mm.
can see, they sense immediately, oh my God, she's on the same channel that we're on.
Yep. And it's true. Like I've heard those stories too. People who are animal communicators or psychologists for animals, especially horses. And I heard that one story of a horse was just, he was all over the place. He was gruff, didn't want to deal with anybody. She walks in. She said, right away, he knew. He knew, and he calms down. they know when you're there to support them. They just know. They pick up on it. Oh, look at yesterday. I had to turn and talk to my dog. He doesn't understand the words, but he was understanding my intent and what was coming from my heart. Daddy wasn't happy. And it worked. And I didn't have to get a crate. So, hey, for that, I thank you.
Hey, I'm so happy about that. Yeah, that's what makes my world go around. Hearing you say that today, that made
The
my day.
truth.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
texted my daughter before. I said, don't forget to take the dog out because she's home there. And I even said, we had a great day yesterday and the day before. And I even said yesterday to her, I had a little talk with him.
Yeah. Well, animals are so intuitive. Like he
Yeah.
knew that we had that conversation. When I talk to clients on the phone and I have their dog here for training, swear to God, I will look outside and that dog will be staring at the house at me on the phone. And I'll be like, he knows that we're on the phone. And I'll even open the door and call him and he'll come into the house and I'll go, show them, he's right here. He knows that I'm talking to you about him.
Mm-hmm.
And when I make an appointment with people sometimes, in fact, this happened just recently. We had to cancel an appointment because their little girl got sick, and this Weimaraner was in danger of losing his home because he had nipped one of the kids, and he was watching for me out the window because he knew that our appointment was at 2 o'clock. I was making a house call this time, and she called me later that day and she said, he knew you were coming. And I said, oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. She said, he
Mm.
was waiting. And when you didn't come, he was like, oh no, And I said, he also knows that his job is on the line, that his home is on the line, and he wants to do this. So I said, that's a really good sign that he
It's pretty funny. But
knows he messed up.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
knows,
And he
and
becomes my advocate, my potential advocate.
yeah,
Uh,
my voice.
my
Yeah.
my voice or my doggy attorney. She's going to defend me. She's going to say it was a
Yeah.
one-off. She's going to hear what I'm saying. I didn't mean to do it. I got excited,
Yeah.
whatever it might be. The
Yeah.
website is animalpsychologycenter.com. It's all there, whether you want to work on the behavior of your animal, be it a service dog, or learn how to do this. Start the conversation, reach out, or instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com if you got a question for Katherine. Thank you so much for being here today.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for not having me go to the store and buy more paper towels to clean up after my dog.
Yay.
Believe me, it's been a thing. I appreciate it. All right.
Okay.
We'll catch up
See
next
you
time.
next week.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.